Hello, it's Monday, and this is Around the Nation here on TYT Nation. Hello, and everybody, welcome to the show. Got a lot of great stories for you. I do apologize for being just a little bit late today. We had so much stuff to do. I had so much, a lot of video, a lot of good stuff. So I spent a lot of time working on that, so that should be a lot of fun. Got some great stories. Update on the jobs report. That should be really fun. Some crazy Republicans. You know we got to cover crazy Republicans. A little bit on Chris Christie. No, we're not talking about Bridgegate, but there is something else going on for Chris Christie that's also pretty bad. And then, of course, an important decision by the SCOTUS. What is it? We'll get to that at the end of the hour. But first, I think I want to start out with the jobs report. So last week I did a report on the jobs report on how some of the analysts were predicting a lot of jobs, somewhere around 200,000 jobs, 250,000 jobs to have been created in December. Well, the real jobs report came out, and it was just a little bit depressing. Let's throw it over to Morning Joe and see what they have to say about it.
Ugly number. Number of jobs created in December, 74,000. The expectation was 200,000. That's awful. The unemployment rate went from 7% down to 6.7%. And you might think that looks good, but in part that's because people are still appear to be withdrawing from the labor force. And just
Yet another summer of recovery, turning into a winter of recovery, turning into a summer of recovery.
So basically, that's really bad. The jobs report, terrible. Not at all meeting any sort of expectations. Just terrible. Now, what's even worse is that these job gains were, of course, in low-wage work. You got your fast food workers, you got your Walmart, you got your Taco Bell. Not exactly the good, high-paying jobs that Americans need. In fact, retail added about 55,000 positions. Professional and business services only added about 19,000 jobs. And construction, which was actually doing really good, cut 16,000 jobs. Now, maybe it had to do, of course, with the weather and the fact that in a lot of the country, it's winter. I mean, keep it real, right? But another thing that was really, really surprising was healthcare. Healthcare actually cut 6,000 positions. Now, that's amazing because you would think that healthcare would be... Actually, healthcare has traditionally been an expanding field, a growing field. So that's really kind of a surprise. Now, what's not a surprise is the fact that the governments, both state, local, and federal, have, of course, reduced employment by about 13,000 jobs in December. Now, of course, right now, altogether, state, local, and federal, they employ 1.14 million fewer people than they did in 2010. That's pretty bad. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of interesting graphs, and I just want you to take a look at these and see what you think. Now, as you can see, the tax rates, okay, for basically every household is down about 17.4%, which is pretty low than it was traditionally. Now, here's something interesting. According to this chart, federal spending is also at its lowest. Lower than Clinton, lower than Reagan, both terms. HW, the lowest on the chart, President Obama. So he has really not been spending very much, which to me sort of makes a lot of sense because that's in times of recession, the government can do a lot to help create jobs, like doing investment. Now, a lot of Republicans will say, well, the deficit and our spending, well, that's of course why we don't have a lot of job growth. That's why. And of course we have taxes that are way, way too high. Well, the deficit for 2013 it was about $680 billion. That is the lowest amount in 5 years. Now, of course, a lot of factors play into that. There's sequestration, and of course, sequestration and the end of the stimulus that was passed back in 2009. So all of those factors, of course, play into the fact that we have a much lower deficit and we do a lot less federal spending. Now, also, not to mention that 94% of the Bush tax cuts are now permanent. They're permanent because of course, President Obama extending those tax cuts to everybody. So now I want you to take a look at another video here. This one is of Karl Rove, and he's talking about the failures of liberal policy. Check it out.
Look, let's be honest. The administration, whether it likes it or not, is admitting that its economic policies have failed.
Yes, the economic policies have failed. The economic policies of lowering the deficit and cutting taxes for 94% of people. Those liberal socialist policies of tax cuts and slashing deficit spending, that's why our job numbers are so low. That's why our job numbers are so low. So what can we do? Well, what can we do? Well, there's a couple ideas. I'm going to let the geniuses over at Fox take it over.
If you cut spending and you cut taxes, you would strengthen our economy. You would give the entrepreneur the ability to create jobs.
Wait a minute. Cut taxes and cut spending, and you'll create jobs. We've cut taxes and we've cut spending, and we get an incredibly weak jobs report. Maybe we need a new plan. Sounds like we need a new plan. Perhaps we should focus on, I don't know, maybe the record income inequality. Now, I've got another chart for you. Actually, I don't. Fail. But basically, income inequality has grown by a ton. It's at one of the highest levels that it's ever been since before the Great Depression. Now, that's really bad. Now, income inequality is a huge problem because once wealth concentrates at the top, it doesn't go anywhere. Rich people do buy luxury goods, but they don't buy enough goods to sustain an economy, especially a consumer-driven economy such as ours. That money just sits there, stagnates, or collects interest, or they will reinvest it in their own business in the form of stock buybacks, which are great for companies, corporations, because then their stock price inflates and the stock market goes up and they make money from the dividends. Great, but that's an unsustainable system. When you continue to do stock buybacks, that money does not go back into the economy to help create jobs. That just inflates a company's value. And that doesn't help anybody except for the shareholders and except for those that are selling the stock. So we have a huge problem with the stagnation of the middle class and income inequality. No, this jobs report isn't a failure of liberal policies. No. Unemployment insurance, food assistance, and other programs, they keep people out of poverty. They're not there to bring the economy back. No. That's not the purpose of these programs. It's not to create a strong economy. They're an emergency for when people need it, for when the economy is basically as it is right now. Okay, that's what they're there for. And of course, with jobs reports like these, such weak jobs reports, the emergency continues. So really, this makes the case that liberal policies do work. when implemented. And you know what? We actually have to continue to strengthen those emergency systems until the rest of our economy can bounce back. And that's kind of really the point. So the point of those systems is to help people that need it in times like these. And then when times are good, then you can scale them back. Then you can get rid of those programs or scale them back. But right now is not the time, especially with weak jobs reports like these. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Back on Around the Nation. All right. Got another great story for you today. And it is the Muslims are coming. No, not really. You'll see in a minute. So you know Michelle Bachmann and her crazy theories about deep Muslim penetration into the White House? Yeah, I know, right? That's really a visual that we don't need. Well, anyway. She's been going on this crazy conspiracy that the White House has been infiltrated by the Muslim Brotherhood. Right? Well, a Fox News contributor has also apparently drank the same Kool-Aid as Michelle Bachmann. Now let me explain. It is actually Air Force General Tom McInerney. Tom McInerney. Oh. What is it with me and names? McInerney was outed a few years ago on Rachel Maddow's program as a birther. Big surprise. And now, of course, he's back to saying more crazy things. Now, he was recently on an appearance on WAML, that's some AM right-wing talk radio, to talk about Robert Gates' new book. Now, in the course of that discussion, he warned that, quote, "We've got Muslim Brotherhood in the U.S. government today. I haven't got their names exactly, but there's a list of them." Oh, there's always a list. At least 10 or 50 of them in the U.S. government. They always have a list. Well, who are these people? Well, he doesn't know, because there is no such list. Because if he knew, don't you think he would say something? If we were really infiltrated by the Muslim Brotherhood, don't you think somebody would say something? Especially when you have all of these experts, so-called experts. They're like, yeah, I know. I've got a list. There's a list. There's names. Well, don't keep us in the dark, man. If there's an actual infiltration, we would like to know about it. But of course, there is no actual infiltration, and he's just a nut. And you know who else had lists? Joe McCarthy. Remember the communists? Oh, there's so many communists. And then Alan West with the same rhetoric. Oh, the communists. I know about 80 or 90 Democrats in the Senate or in the House. That's 80 or 90 Democrats in the House that are communists, card carrying, as if they have a card. Seriously. But look, man, this is what they do. They throw a bunch of random shit against a wall and see what sticks. They muddy the water. And surprisingly, this kind of tactic actually works. And that's the worst thing about this. See, people like McInerney, Bachmann, and Alan West, they are basically spreading information about, oh my God, the president's foreign. Right? No, he showed his birth certificate. He's not foreign. But it works. 17% of Americans still think President Obama is a Muslim. What? 17%. Among conservatives, it's even higher, which is really kind of amazing to me. 30% of conservatives say that he's a Muslim. 30% say that he's a Muslim. Among the most conservative voters, that actually jumps to 34%. Over a quarter of conservatives believe that our president is foreign-born. And not just foreign-born, but he's a Muslim. With zero proof and lots of evidence showing that, no, he's not foreign-born. He was born in Hawaii. We have birth certificates. You think if it was a white president that he would have to show his birth certificate? Absolutely not. So this is partly racial, and this is another part of basically trying to stir up this us versus them mentality. And Muslims, the Muslims are a really good target because of, of the terrorists, 9/11, which in reality, there's a very, very few amount of Muslims that are actually terrorists compared to the total amount of Muslims, but that doesn't stop these people. Facts never get in the way of a good scare. And this is exactly what it is. And it's amazing to me that this is so high. Like I said, over a quarter of Americans don't grasp reality. They have no understanding what reality is. And of course, there are so many valid complaints about President Obama. There's so many to choose from. You don't have to make shit up. Guys, it's okay. You don't have to make things up. You've got the NSA. You've got Guantanamo. We got people sitting in Guantanamo that haven't been charged. Sitting in there for 10 years plus. That's a valid criticism. Like I said, drone strikes, NSA. Lots and lots of things you can choose from. So why do you have to make shit up? No. The reality, and this is my little theory, is that because Obama has bent over backwards to conservatives, I mean, remember, Republicans got 98% of what they wanted in a lot of these deals, right? They even got their health care plan implemented. It's called Obamacare. Yes, that is the conservative health care plan. They don't have anything to fall back on. Yeah, free market solutions, my ass, right? 94% of the Bush tax cuts have been extended forever. Bush couldn't even do that. That was too radical for the Bush years. President Obama got it done. The deficit? Well, the deficit's down. Corporate taxes are the lowest they've ever been, and gun rights have actually been expanded. You can carry in state parks now. And get this, Obama has presided over the slowest growth in federal spending of any president using raw dollars, and the second slowest if you actually adjust it for inflation. So, of all these factors, looking at President Obama, you got to realize that conservatives don't really have anything to go back on. They don't have anything to go after Obama on. So now they have to make things up. Crazy things like this. I mean, President Obama talks a good game, but what has he done policy-wise? He's been very, very conservative on a lot of issues. And look, the truth is, Barack Obama is actually the best Republican president we've had in a long time. Let's let that one sink in. I promise this is not Bridgegate. All right. By the way, Bridgegate. How about we stop using the term "gate" after every scandal? Bridgegate, Benghazi Gate, IRS Gate. Enough with the gate. For Christ's sakes. Anyway. So, Chris Christie has another potential problem. Now, federal inspectors are actually investigating whether Chris Christie misused relief funds from Sandy to make commercials with his family that aired just as he was running for re-election. I have a CNN clip that actually goes into it, explains things, and I'm going to come back and give my commentary.
The new federal investigation into how the New Jersey governor spent some of the Sandy relief money could threaten to wash away the foundation of his political brand. CNN has learned that federal investigators will examine the state's $25 million tourism marketing campaign, a campaign that was paid for with Sandy recovery money.
Jersey sure is open.
The word is spreading because we're stronger than the storm.
You bet we are.
A campaign that featured Christie and his family during an election year.
Uh-oh. That might be a bit of a problem. Now, there's a Democrat from New Jersey, Representative Frank Pallone. Now, he actually talked to CNN and told them that he sent the department a letter requesting the investigation after learning that New Jersey had chosen the advertising company that actually bid $2 million more than the next highest bid. Now, think about that. There was a lot of competing offers in order to make the ad. Now, two of the highest offers from different companies, one of these offers was higher. Well, why was it higher? Because they actually proposed to put Christie and his family in that ad for an extra $2 million. Mr. Pallone, or Representative Pallone, is actually saying that, hey, that $2 million, that could have went to Sandy relief. That could have helped people. Instead, you spend it on an ad because they promised that you would be in it. It seems like a waste of money, right? And it is. I mean, so much for being fiscally responsible, Chris. Well, in a statement earlier today, Christie's office actually said that the, quote, Stronger Than the Storm campaign was actually part of an action plan approved by Obama, or by the Obama administration, developed with the goal of showing that the New Jersey shore was open for business just several months after the storm. No, guys, it's cool. It's cool. Obama said I could do it. It's okay. But it was still up to him in order to choose what firm you actually wanted to employ in order to help make these advertisements. You deliberately chose the one that costs more because you would be in it. Doesn't seem very fiscally conservative. In fact, it seems a little, vain. Maybe just a little bit. Now, Christie's office actually had a response to that and said that, well, the federal agency reviews are routine and standard operating procedure with all federally allocated resources. To ensure that funds are distributed fairly, we're confident that any review will show that the ads were a key part in helping New Jersey get back on its feet after being struck by the worst storm in state history. Now, what do I think about that? Well, just like Bridgegate, this isn't really a major scandal, but it kind of makes him look bad. I mean, first he looks like an asshole and a bully, especially for doing that political retribution, or so-called, supposedly doing that political retribution. We don't know if he actually did it or not. There may be a chance that it's likely. And now wasting state money on himself. Now, Christie has been caught wasting state money before. I mean, I remember when he had gotten some heat from taking a helicopter to his son's baseball game. This guy pretends to be a fiscal conservative while wasting taxpayer money. People love him. I mean, they reelected Chris Christie with an overwhelming majority, even knowing this. So when you think about both of these supposed scandals, right, and I suppose they are. I mean, political retribution, I think that's just politics, because I know that politics is fucking dirty. But you could call it a scandal if you want. It definitely is not the right thing to do. But do I think that these will hurt him in 2016? Look, I don't even know if he's going to run in 2016. I think that's way, way, way too far away to speculate. But for right now, he's kind of hurt. He's not doing too well. So, I mean, we'll have to see what happens and how this plays out politically for him. Look, by the time, and this is, I mean, it makes sense that by this time, 2016, most people would have forgotten about it anyway. I mean, that's just my prediction. So we don't know if this is going to hurt him later, but we do know that the Democrats, for both of these issues, both the bridge problem, the political retribution for the bridge thing, and now this, the Democrats are going to make a lot of ads, and so come election season. So we'll see if that hurts him in the primaries or hurts him if he decides to run. We'll see. I want to skip ahead now and actually go to one of my favorite climate deniers, James Inhofe. Senator Inhofe. Now, during the recent polar vortex, we actually got reminded how strong the climate denial movement is and how far it actually reaches into Congress. Now, Senator Jim Inhofe, famous climate denier, he was actually on right-wing radio, WABC AM, with Aaron Klein, and said something interestingly dumb. Now, normally he says dumb things, but this was actually really interesting. Now, he had said, actually, that he was initially intrigued with Vice President Al Gore when he began talking about human-induced climate change. Oh, really? You were interested, Or intrigued? Really? Well, he actually became skeptical after discovering that environmental regulations would prove costly to businesses. Oh, okay. So basically he's saying that, since that might actually cost my donors money, can't have that. No, climate change, junk. Can't do it. And he actually says that he's not alone in thinking that way. He said, quote, "I find fewer and fewer members of the United States Senate that are sympathetic to the whole cause." So basically, he's just parroting the line that basically Democrats, Democrats use the threat of climate change in order just to pass burdensome regulation on business. Yes, as if that's what the Democrats are all about, since a lot of Democrats are paid by oil and gas. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, now does it? But it does. But his thoughts actually do make a lot of sense when you follow the money. For example, according to the Center for Responsive Politics, James Inhofe received almost $300,000 in legal bribes from the oil and gas industry in the form of campaign contributions. Not so hard to understand where he's coming from when you follow the money. And that's exactly what you have to do. Now, in fact, there's actually $10,000 donated that was reported from Koch Industries. Koch Industries. Isn't that weird? He just so happens to not believe in climate change, and then magically gets money from the Koch brothers. Weird. Oh, isn't that weird how that turns out? But he continues on this radio show. Quote, those who have read my book know that this goes way back a long period of time, started by the United Nations. Here we go. That's when the whole global warming thing started. And frankly, I thought there might be something to it. Until we found out the cost it would be to the United States of America of $300 to $400 billion a year. Now, it didn't take much to do a little bit of research to find out that he's kind of full of shit. Let me explain. The cost of $300 to $400 billion as an estimate written in a paper by the IPCC, or on behalf of the IPCC, that actually tried to crunch the costs of trying to adapt to the climate change that's already here and into the future. Now, it wouldn't just be for America alone. And there's another thing he gets wrong. That would actually be for the entire world to adapt to climate change. Now, that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. That's a huge amount of money because we have a huge problem. And if we don't do something about it soon, well, the cost is just going to get higher. But this is his mindset. If it costs too much, well, we're just not going to do anything and pretend the problem doesn't exist. And that's basically it. Oh, well, it's too much of a problem to fix it. It's going to cost too much to fix it. So let's just pretend it doesn't exist. Put our fingers in our ears and hum. Oh, what, climate change? No. Not happening. Costs too much. What are you talking about? But really, it's also because these things would actually hurt their donors. Now let me explain. Climate regulation, of course, makes it so that polluters can't pollute. That they actually have to clean up their operations and not, update their factories and start following safety regulations. Now, those are expensive for businesses. They are. And so it's understandable for a business wanting to cut down their costs. But this is not a cost that you should be able to cut. You need to, basically, it should be a requirement to do things safely. But their donors do not like that and want to squeeze every last red cent out of whatever they can get. And that's really the whole plan. And so they buy off idiots like James Inhofe in order to do their bidding. Now get this. Now, the climate change numbers are expensive. So I had a thought. Maybe the people that are causing the climate change by polluting might have to pay a little bit of a share of that. Now, a report by Taxpayers for Common Sense actually crunched some of the numbers and found that in the last decade, oil companies have actually made over $1 trillion. $1 trillion. Now, in order to adapt to climate change, we would need worldwide 300 to 400 billion as an estimate. 1 trillion, 300 billion. I think they have enough money to help out a little bit. I don't know about you, but maybe they could put some of that extra money, instead of going back into corporate profits and executive bonuses, maybe they could take a little responsibility for themselves and for the planet and show other companies. And this is just the 5 largest oil companies. This isn't the entire energy sector. This is just the 5 biggest oil companies making over $1 trillion. Maybe they should use some of that money and show a good example of good stewardship towards the earth, of which they make their profit from. I don't think what we're asking is really all that radical. But I'm sure other people would beg to differ. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back for the final segment. Please stay with us. All right. Back on Around the Nation for your final segment. To kind of round out the day, I've got a really important story about the SCOTUS. Now, and actually a good move for women's reproductive rights, the Supreme Court just today has refused to consider a 2013 lower court ruling that struck down Arizona's ban on abortion after 20 weeks. That is good news. Wow. Arizona Attorney General Tom Horne, who's a Republican, had actually petitioned the Supreme Court to take up the case. He argues that it should consider the basis for the state law, or should consider the evidence for the basis for the state law, and that is, of course, the supposed science of fetal pain. Now, what a lot of these people don't get is that the science around fetal pain is actually settled. There is no scientific debate. We pretty much know when a fetus can feel pain or not. But Republicans say, no, 20 weeks. But I'll get into that later. He said, quote, "Although I'm disappointed by this ruling, we will continue to defend the state of Arizona's right to enact constitutionally sound, reasonable legislation." Now remember, Roe v. Wade was considered constitutional. That gave a woman a right to an abortion because it's privacy. Trying to place an undue burden, which is what this is, on a woman is unconstitutional. And of course, there's nothing sound and reasonable about denying a woman her choice in this very personal, private matter. Now, Nancy Northrup, president of the Center for Reproductive Rights, said on this, quote, "Women should not be forced to run to court year after year and state after state to protect their constitutional rights and access to critical health care." Margie, on the other side, Marjorie Dannenfelser, she's the president of the anti-abortion group, Susan B. Anthony List, said that, no, we've got the science on our side. You don't. We've got the science. And I'm going to prove her wrong. But first she said, quote, 20 weeks is more than halfway through pregnancy, and at the point at which babies all have their organs, hear and respond to their mother's voices, and can even feel pain. But like I said, that is where she is wrong. The science is 100% not on her side, and it's been proven. There have actually been a lot of comprehensive studies on this. Now, comprehensive studies on fetal pain have actually included that, or have concluded that fetuses don't feel pain at the 20-week mark. And the most exhaustive review of studies find that claims of fetal pain are unsupported by peer-reviewed science. Now, that's very important. This is the science saying, no, they don't feel pain at 20 weeks, which means it is still not viable. It is still under the purview of the mother, which is really important. The Journal of American Medical Association did an extensive comprehensive study review on all the different scientific journals, concludes that fetal pain is not present until the third trimester. Scientists concur that until the fetus, scientists concur that the fetus is suspended in a sleep-like coma until the third trimester. In the most well-regarded, peer-reviewed, double-blind periodicals in the United States and in the UK, the consensus is that fetal pain is a political construction rather than a scientific fact. And there it is. The science is definitely not on your side. It is on the pro-choice side, which, by the way, I'm just going to get into this to where it really bothers me when people who are against abortion, and I understand, I do. Nobody likes the idea of an abortion. I personally hate the idea. I don't like it. But it's none of my business. And see, that's the real key thing. It's not my decision. Okay? And that's what a lot of the pro-life side is about. That's what they think about people who get abortions, that we don't care or that we're being selfish. And that's not true. We do care about it, which is why we champion things like contraception and sexual education, because those are the biggest things that prevent abortion in the first place, not restrictive laws like the ones that Arizona had actually passed. And several other states have passed things like these too. That's not the way to stop abortion. Preventing choice and preventing women from getting contraception coverage, that's not going to help. It's not going to do anything but guarantee the need for abortions later, or unwanted children that are going to go on welfare. Another thing that a lot of these people who are pro-life are actually against. But back to my personal beliefs. I don't like abortion. I don't like it. I would rather it not happen. But I would rather to give a woman a situation and to put her in a situation where it doesn't have to happen. Making sure they have contraception. Making sure you have comprehensive sex education. And if there is an issue, if there is rape, if there is incest, then you know what? Then that is the situation in which, personally, I think an abortion would be justified, would be fine. But personally, I also know that it's not my decision. It is the woman's decision because it is part of her body. And up until a certain amount of time, until that child is viable, it's nobody's decision but the mother's. Not the state, not the federal government, not me, not you. It's her decision. All right. That's all I got for you today here on Around the Nation. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Jeff's Politics. Follow me on Facebook at TYT Nation. Go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/TYT Nation, and please support us on Patreon if you really enjoy our videos, or if you want to support the show, support me. Sign up to Patreon, become a patron of the show. You know, monthly donation of $1, $3, $5, whatever you want to donate, whatever you can afford, really goes to help making the show better, doing a lot of things. Getting better equipment, maybe hiring an intern so I can get things done on time. It'd be awesome. Just it goes to the show. It goes to the show, and it goes to doing better things, and that's really what I want to do with it. And so, we have 2 patrons now. Bless you guys. You guys are great. Thank you so much for supporting the show and supporting what we do here at TYT Nation. You guys rock. And like I said, that's all I got for you today. We'll see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern here on TYT Nation. And you guys have a great night. Bye.